In the farthest reaches of the Andromeda spiral, where stars burned in hues unseen by human eyes and nebulae painted the sky like spilled ink and fire, there stood a palace unlike any other. Rising from the heart of a moon-sized crystal, its spires spiraling into the violet sky like frozen lightning. This was the Palace of Luminar, seat of the Zewantheri Empire, a civilization so ancient that their ancestors had watched galaxies form. The palace shimmered with inner light, pulsing gently like a living heart, and within its translucent halls, the air hummed with energy, scented faintly of ozone and blooming stardust flowers. Here, in this place of elegance and power, lived Princess Vera, the last of her bloodline, a being of striking beauty and quiet sorrow. Her skin was the deep, rich purple of twilight orchids, and her hair fell like a waterfall of moonlight, pure white, weightless, drifting even when there was no wind. Her eyes, large and luminous, glowed a soft silver, capable of reading emotions like pages in a book. She was graceful, intelligent, and gifted with the rare ability to bend light into illusions. Yet for all her gifts, no suitor had ever truly chosen her. Across the galaxy, suitors had come from empires both grand and strange. Ambassadors with 6 arms and voices like thunder, scholars from gas planets who communicated through color pulses, warriors clad in armor grown from living metal. They had bowed before her, praised her lineage, admired her powers, and offered treasures beyond imagining. But none had stayed. None had looked into her silver eyes and said, "I choose you, not for your title, not for your power, but because I cannot imagine a universe without you in it." They wanted the crown, the palace, the prestige. They saw a prize, not a person. And so, one by one, they left, whispering apologies wrapped in diplomacy, their ships vanishing into the star-streaked dark. Vera never wept, not in public, but in the silence of her private chamber, where the walls shifted colors with her mood. She would press her palm against the crystal window and watch the comet streak past, wondering if loneliness was the price of being royal, or if it was simply her fate. The Zewantheri High Council, a group of ancient beings with skin like polished obsidian and voices that resonated like distant chimes, had grown concerned. "Princess," they had said during a formal gathering beneath the Great Dome, "the bloodline must continue. The Empire needs an heir. You must choose a mate." Vera had stood tall, her white hair swirling around her like a halo, and replied, "I will not choose a stranger for duty. I will not marry a title or a treaty. If no one chooses me for who I am, then I shall remain alone." The council had exchanged uneasy glances. They did not understand emotion. They understood balance, order, succession. But love? That was a chaotic variable, unpredictable, illogical. And yet, Vera clung to it like a secret hope, a fragile belief that somewhere, in all the swirling chaos of the cosmos, someone might see her, not as a princess, but as Vera. Then came the Great Interstellar Summit, an event held once every 1,000 years, where species from across known space gathered to exchange knowledge, culture, and occasionally, political favors. The Palace of Luminar became a kaleidoscope of life. Creatures with wings of glass, beings who floated in anti-gravity bubbles, diplomats from water worlds who communicated through song. The banquet hall, a vast dome open to the stars, was filled with laughter, music, and the clinking of alien goblets. Vera moved among the guests like a ghost, smiling politely, answering questions about her powers, enduring the usual compliments about her exotic beauty and regal aura. She felt invisible despite being the center of attention. No one spoke to her. They spoke at her, about her, around her, but never with her. And then, in the corner of the hall, she saw him. He was small compared to the towering Zewantheri, barely reaching her shoulder, with messy brown hair that looked like it had given up on order long ago, and wide, curious eyes the color of wet earth. He wore a slightly wrinkled jumpsuit with patches that read, "Earth, Department of Xenocultural Observation," and he was currently trying, and failing, to eat a floating dessert that kept darting away like a confused hummingbird. His name tag read Joran. He wasn't a prince, not a warrior, not a scholar of great renown. He was an assistant archivist, sent by Earth's fledgling space program to observe the summit, take notes, and hopefully not embarrass humanity. He had tripped over a ceremonial rug upon arrival, spilled blue wine on a dignitary from the Nebula of Whispers, and accidentally complimented a four-eyed ambassador by calling him cute. And yet, when Vera's silver gaze fell upon him, something inside her stirred. Not magic, not duty, not logic, but something warmer, something long buried. She watched as he gave up on the dessert, laughing at himself, rubbing the back of his neck with a sheepish grin. He looked around, not with awe or ambition, but with genuine wonder, like a child seeing fireworks for the first time. When a floating orb of light drifted too close to his face, he didn't flinch. He smiled and whispered, "Hello there," as if greeting an old friend. Vera felt something crack open in her chest. No one had ever looked at the universe like that, not with hunger for power, but with joy for its existence. She drifted toward him, her bare feet silent on the glowing floor, her white hair trailing behind her like a comet's tail. Joran didn't notice her at first. He was too busy trying to record the bioluminescent ceiling with a tiny handheld device that kept beeping in protest. "Come on, work," he muttered, tapping it. "You cost 3 months' salary." Then, a shadow fell over him. He looked up and up and up. There she stood, a vision of purple and silver, her presence like a quiet storm. His mouth opened. Nothing came out. His device slipped from his fingers and shattered on the floor. "Oh, wow," he finally managed. "You're really tall." Vera tilted her head, a small, amused smile touching her lips. "And you are a very small." Her voice was like wind through crystal chimes, soft, clear, and somehow calming. Joran blinked. "Yeah, human average, actually. But compared to everyone here? Yeah, I'm basically a garden gnome." He looked down at his broken device. "And now I'm a broke garden gnome." "You came from Earth?" she asked, curiosity lighting her silver eyes. "Yep, third planet from Sol. Mud, oceans, and questionable fashion choices. That's us." She laughed, a sound like bells in a spring breeze. It startled her as much as it did him. She hadn't laughed like that in centuries. "You are different. Is that good or bad?" he asked, scratching his ear. "Good," she said simply. "Very good." They talked. Not about politics or power, not about alliances or technology. They spoke of stars and stories, of how Earth had myths about gods in the sky, and how the Zyanthari believed dreams were echoes of other realities. Joran told her about rain, about dogs, about pizza, which she found both bizarre and fascinating. Vera spoke of the singing crystals of her homeworld, of flying through aurora storms, of how her people remembered history by reliving it in shared visions. He listened with wide-eyed attention, asking questions, laughing at her descriptions of Zyanthari court rituals, especially the one involving synchronized floating and interpretive humming. "Wait," he said, grinning. "You mean you all just float and hum for 3 hours to celebrate the new cosmic year?" "It is a sacred tradition," she said, trying to sound serious, but her eyes sparkled with mischief. "I bet it's amazing after a few drinks." She laughed again, and this time, several nearby guests turned to look, not out of judgment but surprise. The princess was laughing, freely, joyfully, and with a human, no less. As the night deepened, the stars outside pulsed in rhythm with the music, and Vera found herself forgetting her title, her duty, her loneliness. For the first time, she wasn't being measured, assessed, or desired for what she could give. She was simply seen. Joran didn't flinch at her purple skin or glowing eyes. He didn't treat her like glass that might break. He teased her gently, asked bold questions, and once, when she conjured a tiny illusion of a dancing star fox, he clapped like a child at a puppet show. "That was incredible," he said. "Can you make it do a backflip?" She did, and he nearly fell over laughing. But not everyone was charmed. From the shadows of the hall, High Counselor Zuenkor observed with cold, calculating eyes. Tall, imposing, his voice like grinding stone. He had long believed Vera's refusal to marry was a weakness, a flaw in the royal line. And now, to see her laughing with a low-ranking human, a species Earth had only recently joined the interstellar community, still considered developing by many, was an insult. He approached, his steps echoing like doom. "Princess Vera," he intoned. "A word, if you please." Joran's smile faded. He took a small step back, suddenly aware of his place or lack thereof. Vera straightened, her expression shifting from joy to regal composure. "Counselor, what is it?" "You are spending an unusual amount of time with this one," Zuenkor said, not even looking at Joran. "He is not of royal blood, not of noble house, not even of significant species. The alliance prospects." "He makes me happy," Vera interrupted, her voice calm but firm. "That is significance enough." Zuenkor's obsidian face darkened. Happiness is a fleeting emotion. Duty is eternal. You are the last of the royal line. The Empire needs stability, not whimsy. Joran cleared his throat. Sir? I don't mean to interrupt, but happiness isn't exactly a bad thing. On Earth, we kind of like it. We even have a holiday for it. It's called, well, most days, actually. Zuinkor turned his gaze on Joran for the first time, and it was like being stared down by a mountain. Silence, minor species. You have no standing here. Joran swallowed but didn't back down. Maybe not, but I think she does. And if she's happy, isn't that what matters? The hall had gone quiet. Guests watched, some in sympathy, others in disdain. Vera looked at Joran, her silver eyes shimmering with something deeper than gratitude. He had defended her, not with weapons or titles, but with words, with courage. Before Zuinkor could respond, the palace alarms blared. A deep, pulsing siren that shook the crystal walls. Red light flooded the dome. A voice echoed through the chamber. Warning, unidentified vessel approaching. Weapons active. Shields rising. Panic erupted. Guests scrambled. Diplomats shouted into comms. Guards activated energy staves. Vera's heart pounded. An attack on Luminar? Impossible. The palace was shielded by ancient technology, hidden in a fold of spacetime. No one could find it unless they were invited. Then, the main view screen flickered to life. A ship, jagged and black as void, hovered at the edge of the system. Its hull pulsed with dark energy, and from its center, a figure emerged on screen. A being of twisted metal and shadow, its face a shifting mask of hatred. It was Korvath, the Exiled One, a rogue Xanthari scientist who had once sought Vera's hand and been rejected centuries ago. He had vowed revenge, vanished into the dark spaces between galaxies, and now he had returned. Vera, his voice crackled, distorted and cruel. You denied me. You humiliated me. You called me unworthy. But I have become more than worthy. I have become power. And now I will take what is mine. Not your hand in marriage, but your throne. Your palace. Your life. The council scrambled. Shields were raised, weapons charged. But Korvath's ship fired. A beam of anti-light that shattered the outer defenses like glass. The palace trembled. Cracks spiderwebbed across the dome. Vera turned to Joran. You must go. It's not safe. He didn't move. And go where? Back to Earth? And tell them the princess saved the galaxy, but I ran away? No way. I'm staying. You're not a warrior. You're not even armed. Joran reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, glowing pen. I've got this. It's a universal translator. Also doubles as a laser pointer. Very dangerous to cats. She stared at him. Then, against all odds, she smiled. You are ridiculous. And you're amazing. So let's be ridiculous together. In that moment, something shifted. Not just between them, but within her. For the first time, Vera didn't feel alone. She had someone beside her. Not because of duty, not for power, but because he chose to be there. She raised her hands. The palace responded. Light surged from the crystal walls, flowing into her like a river. Her white hair lifted, glowing with energy. Her silver eyes blazed. She was no longer just a princess. She was the heir of Luminar, wielder of the photonic core, guardian of the veil. Korvath fired again. Vera stepped forward and unleashed a wave of pure light. It tore through the darkness, clashing with Korvath's anti-light in a storm of color and sound. The sky itself seemed to scream. The palace shook, but held. Joran was thrown back, but scrambled to his feet, still holding his useless pen like a sword. You're incredible, he shouted over the roar. She glanced at him, breathless. You're still here. Told you I wouldn't leave. The battle raged. Korvath summoned drones of shadow, creatures born from dead stars, and sent them swarming toward the palace. Vera countered with illusions. Massive, glowing beasts of light that tore through the darkness. She created a false sun that blinded the enemy sensors, then a tidal wave of energy that shattered half the fleet. But Korvath was powerful. He had stolen ancient technology, fused it with forbidden science, and now he stood beyond the reach of normal weapons. His ship absorbed light, feeding on it, growing stronger. We can't beat him like this, Vera said, panting. He's draining the photonic core. Joran looked around frantically. What if we don't fight with light? What if we fight with something else? Like what? Like noise, chaos, distraction. He grinned. You said your people celebrate the new cosmic year with humming, right? Vera's eyes widened. You can't be serious. Dead serious. If humming can align your people's minds, maybe 1,000 species humming at once can overload his systems. He's built to resist energy but not harmony. It was insane. It was brilliant. Vera turned to the remaining guests, shouting in the common tongue. Listen, we cannot win with force, but we can win with sound, with song, with unity. Join me. Hum, sing, roar. Whatever your species does, do it now. For a heartbeat, there was silence. Then, a single note rose, a deep, resonant tone from a gas giant diplomat. Then another, a high chime from a crystalline being. A four-armed poet began reciting an ancient epic. A water being sang a lullaby of the deep currents. And then Joran started clapping. Loud, rhythmic human clapping. Come on, he yelled. Clap, stomp, whistle, whatever. Let's make some noise. The hall erupted. Not in fear, not in battle, in music. A cacophony of voices, tones, rhythms, and sounds poured into the air, weaving together into something greater than the sum of its parts. The vibrations traveled through the crystal palace, amplified by its structure, and shot into space like a sonic supernova. Korvath's ship shuddered. His anti-light flickered. The drones collapsed, their forms dissolving. His systems overloaded, unable to process the chaotic harmony. No, he screamed. This is not power. This is madness. It's called joy, Vera said, stepping forward, her voice carrying on the wave of sound. And you'll never understand it. With a final pulse of light and sound, the ship exploded, not in fire, but in a burst of rainbow energy, scattering into the void like ashes. Silence returned. Then, applause, cheers, laughter. The palace stood. The stars shone. And in the center of it all, Vera stood with Joran at her side, both breathless, both grinning like fools. The council approached, their expressions unreadable. Ziwankor stepped forward. You have saved the empire, he said slowly, with unorthodox methods. She saved us all, Joran said. I just clapped. Ziwankor looked at him, then at Vera. And you choose this one? A human? With no title, no power, no lineage. Vera took Joran's hand. His fingers were warm, real, trembling slightly. She looked into his earth-colored eyes and felt something she had never known. Peace. Yes, she said, her voice clear and strong. I choose him, not because he is powerful, not because he is noble, but because when I looked into his eyes, I didn't see a future of duty. I saw a life of laughter, of joy, of love. She turned to Joran, her silver gaze soft, her heart full. And then, in front of the entire gathering, the princess of the Ziwanthari Empire, last of her line, looked at the small, messy-haired human who had stood by her in battle, who had made her laugh, who had clapped when the universe needed noise, and she asked, voice trembling with hope, Will you marry me, human? The silence that followed Vera's question was not one of shock, but of awe, a stillness so deep it seemed the stars themselves paused to listen. Joran stood frozen, his brown eyes wide, his mouth slightly open, as if he had misheard the most impossible thing in the universe. Around them, the grand hall of the Palace of Luminar shimmered with the afterglow of battle and the soft hum of recovering systems. The shattered dome had already begun to repair itself, crystal threads weaving back together like living lace. But none of that mattered. Not the palace, not the empire, not the thousands of eyes now fixed upon them. There was only her, purple-skinned, white-haired, silver-eyed Vera, and the question that hung in the air like a comet's tail. Then, slowly, a grin spread across Joran's face. Not the nervous, polite smile he'd worn all evening, but a full, bright, unrestrained beam that lit up his entire being. He laughed. A warm, earthy sound that rippled through the silence like a pebble dropped in still water. Wait, he said, scratching his head. Did the princess of an ancient alien empire just propose to me? The guy who spilled wine on a diplomat and owns exactly one pair of non-stained socks. Vera's cheeks darkened to a deeper violet, but she didn't look away. I did, she said, her voice steady. And I meant it. Joran took a breath, then another. He looked around, at the towering Ziwanthari counselors, at the stunned alien dignitaries, at the broken translator pen still clutched in his hand. Then he looked back at her, and his expression softened. Vera, he said, her name sounding foreign on his tongue but right in his heart. I'm not a prince. I don't have a throne. I don't even have health insurance. I can't give you palaces or power or eternal life or whatever it is royal alien husbands are supposed to bring to the table. She stepped closer. I don't want any of that. I do have a really good playlist, he continued, grinning. And I make an excellent grilled cheese. Also, I cry during animal rescue videos. Is that a deal breaker? She laughed, and the sound sent a ripple of light through the palace walls, as if the very structure rejoiced. No, she whispered. It's perfect. Joran took both her hands in his, her skin cool and smooth, his warm and slightly calloused. Then yes, he said, his voice thick with emotion. 1,000 times yes. I'll marry you, Vera. Not because you're a princess. Not because you saved the galaxy. But because you laughed at my jokes. Because you didn't run when things got weird. Because you looked at me, just a guy from Earth, and saw someone worth choosing. A cheer erupted from the hall. Some guests clapped, others chimed. A few even floated in joyful circles. Even Counselor Ziwankor gave a stiff, reluctant nod, though he muttered something about biological incompatibility and interspecies inheritance law under his breath. But none of it could dim the light in Vera's eyes. The days that followed were unlike any in the history of the Zywanthere Empire. Preparations for the wedding began, not in the cold, formal way of royal tradition, but with laughter, color, and a surprising amount of Earth influence. Joran insisted on music, so the palace engineers spent hours converting human songs into Zywanthere harmonic frequencies. Beethoven's Ode to Joy played in shimmering light waves, while Can't Stop the Feeling by Justin Timberlake became a surprisingly popular dance ritual among the younger courtiers. Vera, for the first time, didn't feel like a figurehead. She was part of the planning, choosing flowers that bloomed in zero gravity, designing a gown that shifted colors with her emotions, which, thanks to Joran, were mostly shades of pink and gold. She even convinced the High Council to allow Earth guests to attend, though they had to pass a no accidental diplomacy violations test and agree not to bring spicy food. Apparently, human chili sauce was classified as a biohazard by Zywanthere standards. Joran, meanwhile, struggled with royal etiquette. He kept forgetting to bow, accidentally called the Grand Steward Your Tallness, and once tried to feed a ceremonial crystal fish a cracker, but Vera adored him for it. His clumsiness wasn't disrespect, it was honesty. He didn't pretend to be something he wasn't. And in a world of polished perfection, his imperfections were a breath of fresh air. One evening, as they sat on a floating balcony overlooking the twin moons of Luminar, Joran asked the question that had been haunting him. Do you think it'll work? He said, staring at the stars. Us? I mean, we're from different worlds. Literally. What if we grow apart? What if you realize I'm just too human? Vera leaned her head on his shoulder. You think love is about being the same? She asked softly. No, it's about choosing each other. Every day, even when it's hard. Even when you forget to close the energy vault or wear mismatched boots to a state dinner. I did that once, he admitted. And I loved you more for it. He smiled, then grew serious. What about your people? Will they ever accept me? I'm not exactly built for royal life. They already do, she said, pointing below. In the courtyard, a group of young Zywanthere children were playing a game Joran had taught them, tag, but with floating and dramatic sound effects. One of them wore a handmade earth cap made of woven light, shouting, I'm Joran. I fight with noise and grilled cheese. Joran laughed, his eyes glistening. Okay, maybe I'm growing on them. You are, Vera said, like a very cute, slightly chaotic moss. Hey! She kissed him then, softly, sweetly. A touch of lips that sent a pulse of light through the balcony, making the crystals bloom like flowers. When they pulled apart, Joran was grinning like he'd won the universe. I still can't believe this is real, he said. It is, she whispered. And it's only the beginning. But the universe, as it often does, had other plans. 3 days before the wedding, a distress signal pierced the silence of space. A faint, repeating pulse from the edge of the Andromeda Rim. It was coming from a derelict research station, one that had gone dark centuries ago. The message was fragmented, but one word repeated over and over, Korvath. Vera froze when she heard it. Joran saw the shift in her. Her silver eyes dimmed, her posture stiffened. He's not gone, she said. He survived. The council convened in emergency session. Some believed it was a trap. Others thought it was a glitch. But Vera knew better. Korvath was obsessed. He wouldn't stop. Not after coming so close to destroying her. "I have to go," she said. "No," Joran said immediately. "It's too dangerous. It's my responsibility," she insisted. "He's after me. If I don't face him, he'll come back. He'll hurt more people. Maybe you." Joran crossed his arms. "And what if something happens to you? What then? I just got you. I'm not losing you before we even say, 'I do.'" They argued gently, fiercely, lovingly. It was the first real fight they'd ever had. Vera wanted to protect him. Joran wanted to protect her. In the end, they compromised. "I'm going," Vera said. "But you're coming with me." Joran blinked. "Wait, what? I'm not exactly combat trained. I once got beat up by a seagull." "You're smart. You're brave. And you have a talent for chaos," she said, smiling. "We're going to need that." So, against the council's protests, they departed in a sleek, stealth-class vessel, small, fast, and cloaked in light-bending fields. Joran spent most of the journey trying not to throw up from hyperspace travel, while Vera navigated with calm precision, her hands dancing over the controls like a conductor. When they reached the station, it hung in the void like a broken tooth. Twisted metal, shattered glass, and silence. No life signs, no movement, just the faint echo of the distress signal. They boarded cautiously, their boots echoing in the dark corridors. The air was cold, stale. Lights flickered. Joran clutched a modified stun device. "Just in case we meet a space rat," he said. Then, deep in the core chamber, they found it. Not Korvath, but a machine. A massive, pulsing construct of metal and dark energy, shaped like a heart wrapped in chains. Wires snaked into the walls, feeding on the station's dying power. And in its center, a single glowing shard of crystal. Vera recognized it instantly. It was a fragment of the photonic core stolen during the battle. "He's trying to recreate it," she whispered, "to build his own source of light and destroy it from within." Joran frowned. "So he's not back. He's building a weapon. A weapon that could unravel entire star systems if activated." Before they could react, the machine pulsed. The lights surged, and from the shadows, a voice. Cold, mechanical, but familiar. "You still don't understand, Vera," Korvath's voice echoed. "You cling to love, to joy, to weakness. But power is control. Power is domination. And soon I will have both." The machine flared. A hologram formed, Korvath's face, twisted, half machine, half shadow. He wasn't on the station. He was broadcasting from somewhere far away, using the machine as a beacon. "You cannot stop me," he said. "The core will fall. Your love will burn. And the universe will kneel." Then the transmission cut. Joran turned to Vera. "Well, that was dramatic. She was already moving. We have to destroy the machine. Now." They worked together, Vera using her light-bending powers to disrupt the energy flow, Joran jury-rigging the station's failing systems to overload the core. Sparks flew. Alarms blared. The machine shrieked like a dying beast. And then, at the final moment, it lashed out. A tendril of dark energy shot toward Joran. Vera pushed him aside. The energy struck her. She cried out, falling to her knees, her silver light flickering like a dying star. "Vera!" Joran caught her, holding her close. "No, no, no, stay with me." Her voice was weak. "The machine. Destroy it." Joran looked at the pulsing core, then at the tools in his hands. He remembered what she had said, "You have a talent for chaos." He grinned. Then, with a wild, desperate energy, he pulled out his old, broken universal translator. He ripped it open, rewired it with station cables, and connected it to the central console. "What are you doing?" Vera gasped. "Making a playlist," he said, and he played it full volume. Every song he had ever loved. Every Earth anthem of hope, of love, of rebellion. "We will rock you. I will survive. Don't stop believin'." The music blasted through the station, vibrating the metal, shaking the machine. The dark heart couldn't handle it. It wasn't designed for harmony, for joy, for the messy, unpredictable power of human music. Cracks formed, lights exploded, and with a final, shrieking wail, the machine collapsed in on itself, the stolen crystal fragment shattering into harmless dust. Silence returned. Then a soft hum. Vera stirred. Her light returned, slowly, like dawn after a long night. She looked up at Joran, who was covered in soot, his hair standing on end, still holding the smoking translator. "You saved me with music?" she whispered. He grinned. "Told you it was a good playlist." She laughed weakly, then pulled him into a kiss that glowed brighter than any star. When they returned to the palace of Luminar, they were greeted not as warriors, but as legends. The story of the human who defeated a dark empire with a song spread across the galaxies. Children sang earth tunes in schools. Zhuanthari poets wrote odes to grilled cheese. And on the day of the wedding, the sky itself seemed to celebrate. The ceremony was held in the grand crystal garden, where flowers of light bloomed in time with the couple's heartbeat. Vera wore a gown woven from starlight and memory, shifting from violet to silver to gold. Joran wore a tailored earth suit, with one difference: a purple sash across his chest, the color of her skin, the symbol of his love. They stood before the High Council, beneath a sky painted with constellations that formed their names. No long speeches, no cold traditions, just two souls, from different worlds, choosing each other. "I, Vera of the Zhuanthari, take you, Joran of Earth, not because you are perfect," she said, her voice clear and strong, "but because you are real, because you make me laugh, because you stood beside me when the universe burned. I choose you today and always." Joran, blinking back tears, took her hands. "I, Joran, take you, Vera, not because you're a princess or a warrior or a being of light, but because you're you, because you asked me to marry you like it was the most natural thing in the world, and because I can't imagine my life, my universe, without you in it." And as they kissed, the palace erupted in light and sound, a symphony of 1,000 species singing one word, over and over, in every language. Yes, the stars watched, and the galaxy held its breath, for love at last had found its way home. Years flowed like stardust, gentle and golden, and in the quiet glow of their love, Vera and Joran built a life richer than any empire. Their home, a floating sanctuary between two peaceful moons, became a haven of laughter, light, and the constant hum of mismatched socks. They had 7 children, 5 born with shimmering silver eyes and strands of white hair, 2 with warm brown eyes and messy human curls, and 1 astonishing little girl who could hum in 3 harmonic frequencies at once. Joran taught them earth songs, silly dances, and how to make the perfect grilled cheese, while Vera showed them how to bend light into rainbows, ride solar winds, and speak without words. Their children were wild, brilliant, and wonderfully strange, chasing zero-gravity butterflies, inventing games that mixed Zhuanthari elegance with human chaos, and once accidentally turning the palace fountain into a bubble orchestra. Neighbors from 100 species came to watch the annual Family Chaos Festival, where Earth Pizza met Zhuanthari crystal fruit in glorious, messy harmony. Joran grew a beard that sparkled faintly, a side effect of too much exposure to photonic energy, and Vera's laughter became a legend, said to make even the oldest crystals bloom. They grew older, slower, but never apart, walking hand in hand through gardens that shifted with their moods, telling stories of battles fought with noise and love. The galaxy changed around them, empires rose and fell, but peace held in their corner of the stars. No more wars, no more fear, just quiet mornings watching twin suns rise, and evenings filled with music that danced between worlds. They never needed grand titles or endless power, just each other, their children, and the simple joy of being together. And when strangers asked how a human and a Zhuanthari princess built such a perfect life, Joran would wink and say, "She asked me to marry her. Best decision I ever made." Vera would smile, squeeze his hand, and add, "No, I was the lucky one." And so they lived, not in legend, but in love, deep, enduring, and brighter than any star.